All right, let's discuss this further then. We are joined by Andre Duvenhage, local government expert, and economist, Professor Peter Baur, both actually professors. Thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News. We certainly do appreciate your time here, sirs.
Thank you very much, Flo.
All right, let's start with you, Prof. Duvenhage. And in fact, I'll pose the same question to you, Mr. Baur. What does all of this mean when we look at the state of municipalities? I mean, the Auditor General really painting a sort of a bleak picture of the financial state of South Africa's municipalities, saying that, in fact, there's little sign of the situation being turned around. What does this then say about the state of our municipalities and municipal finance management? Let's start with you, Mr. Duvenhage.
Yes, I think this report, in a way, supports the other report of Africa Ratings, creating a very bleak picture of the local government situation in the country. And clearly, the situation, generally speaking, is not improving, it is deteriorating. And this is not only happening with regard to financial management, also with regard to service delivery, governance, in general. The point I like to focus on is the use of people, service providers. And clearly, it seems as if we have a system that is nothing more than a form of institutionalized corruption. And this is supported by political elites. And at the end of the day, there's no clear action taken against misconduct. But the problem is, and the African Ratings report show this quite clearly, that we are now in a crisis where central government need to intervene because local government is on the brink of total collapse. And the Auditor General is supporting this report of African Ratings as well.
All right, Prof. Baur, let's come to you then on the same issue then. Your reaction really to what the Auditor General had to say then this morning, and your thoughts on the municipal finance management. What does this then say about the state of our municipalities?
Yes, I think Professor has actually just raised that that point really well. Yeah. We are in a crisis situation, and something really needs to be done in terms of shifting and, so we say, mitigating against further situational problems. The way I see it is as a systems failure, where small issues that are developed a number of years ago have simply grown and grown and grown, and every single system leads to another failure, which leads to another failure, which then continues on this ongoing trajectory and at increasing rate. And so where we really are standing is in a situation where something really very seriously needs to be done, because this will have obviously an overarching impact on things such as, shall we say, our credit ratings eventually at the end of the day, the way in which the rest of the world perceives us, and of course investor confidence.
All right, Prof. Duvenhage, you had touched on it briefly, and I actually did want to expand on this particular issue. Of course, we're hearing the fact, and I think you're quite passionate about this particular issue, the fact that 70% of the municipalities are said to be using consultants for their reporting, while there are people who are employed within those municipalities to be doing those particular jobs. How has this been acceptable, and why has this not been red flagged, and only now really being red flagged by the Auditor General, which technically shouldn't even be her job to red flag something like this?
Flo, you're 100% right in your summary of the situation and asking this question. At the core of everything is the political ideology of transformation that is responsible in practice for cadre deployments. So we have people in positions who cannot do the job. Now they are making use of service providers, and they are appointing their own friends who also cannot do a proper job. And both are benefiting from this server provider vicious circle, if I can call it that way. And if we don't have, and that is a government thing, don't have the political will to act against corruption and changing the basis of our ideology and the implementation thereof, then we are in trouble. Fortunately, President Ramaphosa mentioned some of these aspects during his budget speech about a week ago, and he made it quite clear that he is going to go for ethical governments, he's going to fight corruption, and he is going to do his utmost to appoint people with the necessary merit. At the moment, this system cannot continue the way it's continuing, and it's falling apart, and the people that are paying the price are the ordinary citizens, while the political elites are benefiting from this.
Prof. Baur, let's come to you. Is it a simple case really of corruption in the mix? I know it's always easy for us to say, we blame corruption for anything that really that goes wrong in the country. Is it bad governance? I mean, are there other factors that we're also juggling with here when it comes to, what we've heard the Auditor General saying this morning and as I say, the state of our municipalities?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the Auditor General's report is starting to point towards issues of accountability in this particular case. Municipalities need to be taking accountability in terms of how these funds are actually mitigated and how they actually are dealt with from a step-by-step basis. Further investigation into these kind of situations is probably going to be revealing a lot more. We actually are now exposing more and more cases, especially in terms of the way in which contracts have been distributed in the past, the way we are actually handling and dealing with choosing the right people to do the right kind of job. And of course, it is going to impact on the people the most. The communities, municipalities, we should be seen from a ground level. We should be seeing better levels of development. This is where we're going to be able to support businesses and create the kind of economic growth that we were trying to achieve. But we have to build it up from ground roots, and we need to create that confidence for businesses, and we have to really support them. And so we're going to start looking at further overarching issues, such as, for example, infrastructural development, and of course, targeted support programs to actually help communities actually develop again.
Yeah, Prof. Duvenhage, of course, you would know South Africa also, facing this what we'll call an energy crisis, with the power producer not generating enough power for the country, and then you find also on the back of that municipalities are owing really in the billions to Eskom. What impact does that have on the performance of the power utility? And I mean, this is really just, if you look at it, it's really just, a crash waiting to happen, isn't it? Are we really on a course of, really a problem at this point in South Africa?
Yes, I have no doubt that we are entering probably a worst case scenario. And to add what you have just said, is a situation in PE where we have entering close to day zero, where there's really no water. And my take on it is that we have a systems failure in general. We can call it political and institutional decay, of which local government is only part of a much bigger and much more comprehensive picture of institutional and political decay. And you are quite right, it is affecting the utilities, it is affecting Eskom, it is affecting Transnet, and then also we have another factor in the mix here, and that is patterns of instability. And on local government level, we have seen these service delivery protests on the increase. So the political environment is also very unstable and difficult to manage. Bringing all of this together, it is an extremely difficult, if not impossible task to use proper governance principles and apply them in a proper way. In this sense, I think it is time we must sit down, and we need politicians to take us forward. We need to reform the system, not necessarily the constitution or maybe even the legislation, but definitely the way we implement it. And we need to define the core values on which systems must function.
All right. Prof Baur, you heard there Prof Duvenhage kind of starting off the topic of where we actually go from here, and I'll ask you to carry on that. I mean, I think it's really very concerning, given the fact that, clean audits were only reported for 16% of South Africa's municipalities, and it doesn't seem as though the Auditor General sees any hope of any changes, as she did mention. So where do we start? Where do we begin to fix such a, what I see as a dire situation, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, it's going to be from a ground roots level up. We literally have to go right back into the municipalities, and we have to relook at the systems and the way in which the systems are structured and how they are actually managed. I think on the ground root level, there's a lot of people who are planning or who do good intentions, but I also feel that within these systems, there are still those incredible loopholes where funds are being used inappropriately, distributed in the wrong kind of ways. So in order to mitigate against this, maybe we should really seriously start looking at the kind of feedback that we got from this report, which is a really good start, and saying, okay, well, how do we go to from here? What can we do to filter this out? And I think really we got to start lining up the kind of skills we need with the kind of jobs. And we've got the skills in the country, we've got the ability, we really do, but we cannot sidestep through policy or through sort of reform to try and sidestep the best people for the right kind of appropriate positions. And I do believe that this step forward is going to open the door for us to actually expose what has actually really been happening out there.
Yeah, and then I want to just end off the discussion by talking about accountability. And I think you've been quite clear, Prof Duvenhage, about bad governance and corruption. But let's talk about the issue of accountability when it comes to local government, because we keep hearing about these bad reports. The Auditor General, repeatedly mentions this, and it's almost like we're waiting for some sort of explosion before people are held accountable. When it comes to accountability, where do we start, and what impact or role does accountability play in ensuring good governance and good performance? Is it a case of people are just not accountable? So this is why, we are where we are.
Yes, I agree 100%. Accountability is at the core of financial discipline. It's also at the core of the way systems function. And when it comes to accountability, three things are very important to me. In the first place, ethics. Then secondly, the political will to implement legislations and decisions. And then thirdly, the necessary skills within the system to make proper conduct possible. Because you cannot financially manage a system and be accountable if you do not possess the necessary skills. And this is bringing me back to the whole thing of cadre deployment. And at the core, and if I can emphasize only one thing, the political will to make a difference, the political will to act. And I think a lot is going to start from the Zondo Commission and the ability and the political will to implement that findings in a thorough way and take it to all levels of government, including local government.
All right, Profs, appreciate both of your time there. Prof Andre Duvenhage, a local government expert, as well as economist, Professor Peter Baur. Thank you so very much to both of you for giving us your time here on SABC News. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is Prof Andre Duvenhage and Prof Peter Baur weighing in, of course, on the Auditor General's report. Then this afternoon, the Auditor General really painting a bleak picture of the financial state of South Africa's municipalities, saying on the back of that there is little sign of the situation being turned around.